All right, this is a special meeting of the Charter Revision Commission. It's Wednesday, July 15th. I'm going to call the roll. J.C. Sinelli.
Here.
Kate Donahue here. Nancy Gardner.
Here.
Susan Gilson.
Here.
Marty McCann. Not here yet. Okay. And Tom Tesoro.
Here.
Great. Thank you. And then we've got Attorney Shopik and our clerk, Cindy Caskey.
Here.
Okay, great. So let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Where's our flag? Thank you, Nancy. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
And I see Mr. McCann has joined us. Hello, Martin. How are you?
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so let's see if we have any public comment. We've got two people on the sidelines. If you would like to raise your hand, if you'd like to speak. Anybody? Okay, then we'll move ahead with the meeting. So the first item on the agenda is approval of our.
One thing, Kate, do they know how to raise their hand in case they don't know? You might want to explain it to them.
I'm looking for the raise your hand. Can you guys see it? I'm not
Sure.
I think if you're an attendee, it shows up differently.
Yeah, maybe next to your name.
I think it's down at the bottom of the screen.
If you bring your cursor down to the bottom of the screen, it's not going to show up normally. There should be a little hand raise, and you can raise your hand. Or you could put a Q&A up, and we'll see that. So I'll give you another minute, those attending, to see if anybody has. Okay, there's Tom Lee. Okay. Then, Mr. Lee, you can go ahead. I hope how do I add him? Let's see.
I know Bill usually does that,
All right.
but if you're an administrator,
I don't know why I can't.
If you go over to his name, Kate, you can't go over.
There's no microphone thing. Let me see. Share Q&A participants. Recording. All right, let me text Laura. Mr. Lee, I'm sorry. I apologize. Let me just see if she can get back on. The technology is still a little challenging.
Well, I think what we can do, Kate, is we can move the minutes, and while we're waiting for her to come back on, so.
Okay, why don't we go?
And Mr. If you want to speak, and we'll go right after that.
Yeah, we'll go back to the public comment then. Okay, great. Okay, so I need approval of the June 17th minutes.
I'll move that.
That's Tom. Thank you. Second?
Second.
JC, thank you. Any corrections or additions? Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Okay, that motion passes. Yeah, let me see. Okay, Laura's back. Okay, Laura, we've got one person that wants to give public comment. So I don't know how to, I'm hoping you can hear me. I don't know how to let him in. It's Mr. Lee.
Okay, I will either promote him to a panelist or allow him to speak. We'll see what happens.
Okay, great. And we do have a 3-minute time limit,
Okay.
Mr. Lee, okay?
He's also muted.
Yes.
Okay, so now I should,
Got it. Can you hear me now?
There we go.
unmuted.
Yeah.
All right, success.
I'm not going to speak for 3 minutes.
Okay, great.
I understand the town council sent a number of different things back to you guys for your review. I want to thank Marty McCann for sending me your draft that enabled me at least to make some comments at that town council meeting. I really have nothing further to say as such, but if you have any questions, I'll be watching for as long as I can. My wife is waiting dinner on me. So I'll respect that and respect your time and your effort. Thank you.
Tom, this is Kate Donahue, just one question. We have seen I haven't seen the whole version of the minutes from the town council meeting, but if you have a written copy of what you said in that public comment that you could send to Cindy, so we could, again, I want to make sure we understand everything you raised, because it did sound like there were one or two new things in there that we want to make sure we fully understand what you're getting at. And I don't think we're going to finish our conversation tonight. I think it'll take two meetings. So if you could forward those, we would really appreciate it. So
thank you very much. I really don't have anything organized but my handwritten notes. I could send something to you, dictate a letter tomorrow and get something off to you. If that would be your preference, it would be mine too, because that way I can go to dinner. Unfortunately, you guys probably haven't had supper yet. So I wish you a speedy meeting and good resolutions. And thank you. But again, I wanted to thank Marty for getting me the draft so that I could at least read it. And that made me, I thought that was very kind of him, because it didn't seem to be available anywhere else. And what I will do is I will prepare a letter, and I just don't know who to email it to. Should I email it to Marty or to Cindy Katsky?
either one, then they'll get it to the rest of us.
I will do that. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do that.
That would be great. Thanks so much.
Certainly welcome. And thank you for your efforts.
All right, enjoy your dinner. Okay, so back to our agenda. So my thinking was there were 8 recommendations or 8 things that the town council either gave us some specific direction on or asked us to just relook at. So I'd like to run through those and maybe top line, see what people's opinions are as to which ones we might need to do some additional work around before we come to a final decision, as opposed to those that we might discuss tonight and come to a conclusion more quickly. I do think, based on some of the feedback that we got, that we need to maybe relook at some of our explanations and see if we can be a little clearer, so that some of the questions I think we got were, maybe we could clear them up. And if the town council had trouble understanding what we were getting to, the public might have that same issue. So I think there's an opportunity to make our reasoning a little bit clearer. So does that sound like a reasonable way to approach this, unless somebody else has another idea? I do think it's going to take us 2 meetings, tonight and next week, but I think it's worth it. And I think the feedback from the town council was I think everything they gave us were things we definitely need to think about and talk through. So unless somebody has an alternative way they'd like to approach this, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, so I sent out an email with the list of the votes for recommendations they gave us. It's in order by where they fall in the charter. So the first one is around the town council district question. And Cindy, I don't know if we got specific language about what they exactly said.
Well, we don't have the minutes yet, and I know that the TCTV video on demand server was down, so when I went to try to watch, I had a problem with that.
Well, hopefully that got resolved today. I got to touch base with Laura again.
Okay, I looked at the end of the day and there was still a notice up at the top. I don't think they gave exact language.
Tom, you're raising your hand.
Yes, I listened to that, the whole town council meeting, and I will say that what they recommended was that we remove from the language we presented to them the number of districts and replace it with language which basically said that once the districts are established, that it would take 2/3 of the council, and not less than 2/3 of the council, that's the right language? Not less than 2/3 of the council to change the districts to another configuration. So their suggestion was that we, instead of trying to limit the power of the council with respect to the number of districts, that we set rules around making those changes, and that would be permissible under state statute.
Yeah, the only other note I had, Tom, was that they said number of districts and their boundaries.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We take all that out and just replace it with, but I'm not sure they said boundaries. Right? Maybe I'm wrong about that. But certainly the number of districts should be left to the council, and drawing the boundaries should be left to the council. But to change the number of districts would require 2/3 of the vote, because the boundaries are going to change every. Well, maybe not. They should be reviewed every census, and then they would be changed. That doesn't require a 2/3 majority, but changing the number of districts would. That's what I remember from the conversation.
Okay.
Kate, this is JC. I agree. That was the boundaries thing was I think one of the problems that should not require a 2/3 vote. It was just the number of districts should be within the purview of the council. Any changes require a 2/3 vote. Essentially, that was the language that they wanted to leave in there, because the boundaries are, based on state law and census data and things like that.
Okay.
Marty had drafted some potential.
It's Tom Tesoro again. Since we're discussing it, I happen to think that's a very, very, very good idea, because that it gets away from any potential litigation that might come as a result of maybe trying to put handcuffs on the council with respect to the number of districts. So I think their suggestion was a well thought out one.
Okay, Attorney Shopik?
Actually, Marty McCann, I think, did draft something. I don't know if everybody got it, but Marty, maybe you want to.
Sure. Hold on a second. Let me pull it up. Is there a share screen function on this?
Yeah, if you go down to the bottom,
Invite, mute,
cursor on the
erase.
bottom,
Yeah.
The
share screen, it should
Oh,
be.
yeah. All right. Let me get as soon as I get it on my other screen, I'll share that screen.
Well, I have to say this, that we have driven out all our attendees.
I was thinking the same thing.
A new record.
I have to say too, I was looking at other charters as, following up to the town council meeting. Plenty of other charters actually list the number of districts right in their charter. So it's not uncommon for that to happen. I mean, I agree with, I'm fine with what the town council decided, but it is a pretty common thing in Connecticut where the,
Okay, can everybody see my screen here?
Not yet.
no,
Not yet? Oh,
No.
hold on.
There you go.
It's
All right, so.
There we go.
Okay,
So this is the language that I sent to Dan. I'll let you all, the blue language, the blue sentence or sentence, yeah, 2 sentences are mine. The red strikeout is what we're taking out. The other red language is amendments that we made previously that I don't think need to be changed.
I do think that captures what was said that night.
yep.
The only thought I have is maybe we want to make it clear that the 2/3 is only required to change the actual districts, but not the actual number of districts, but not the boundaries of the districts. That
Yeah,
should be
I-
Number of,
Yeah, that clarification would be a good idea, I think.
to establish from time to time upon 2/3 vote of the members present at a meeting voting districts so established shall be substantially equal population. And something to the effect of any change in the boundaries of the district shall be subject to majority vote of the council, or shall be determined by
Yeah, I like
majority vote of the council.
Doesn't, as a practical matter, isn't the, aren't the boundaries determined by the redistricting commission?
No, the redistricting committee brings it back to the council and then the council actually, at least the past practice has been, it's done by ordinance, that the district boundaries are actually in an ordinance in the town code.
What would be the harm? I'm just thinking out loud here, and I don't know the answer. What would be the harm of requiring both the number of districts and the boundaries of those districts to be determined by 2/3 vote?
Just that this is Dan Shopik, the only issue might be, it's that you need 2/3 to determine how many districts, but if it's something that really is required to be done, the number of districts is not, you're not required to change the number of districts. And so I can see 2/3 for that. But we are required to, after the decennial census, to take a look at the boundaries of the districts and make sure that they are correct. I'd hate to see that get bottled up in a question of a 2/3 vote.
Okay.
That's my only thought. Again, it may, by requiring 2/3, maybe that means less gerrymandering. I don't know, and maybe that's a good thing.
I think the town council will look at that as an impermissible intrusion on their authority. I don't think they'll have any issue with the 2/3 because that's because of what you just said, Dan, because that should be done with a broad consensus. But the voting districts really are just based on census, and sure, that the majority party may gerrymander, but that has not been the case that I've seen anyway, to date in our when our council votes.
This, I have can everybody see this section
Yes.
43 voting districts?
Yep.
Mhm.
I think this comes I think it comes from Greenwich or maybe West Hartford. No, I think it comes from Greenwich. And they say something about the town lines.
Yeah, it consists of compact and contiguous territory to be bounded as far as possible by the center line of known streets and ways.
But they don't make the distinction between the boundary lines and the 2/3 vote.
Let's stick with the 2/3. End of the day, whatever people are comfortable with.
Okay. Everybody else?
This is JC. It's my recollection that there were a couple of councilmen that were concerned about the boundaries requiring a 2/3 vote. That's just my recollection.
This is Nancy Gardner. I remember it the same way, JC, that it should be easier to change the boundaries as a result of changes in the census than to change the number of districts.
Yeah, and this is JC. I think it was also kind of a bipartisan thing as to the concerns there. I'm just going based upon my memory.
All right, I can work on that language if you guys want.
Yeah, I think JC's got it exactly right, and in terms of his recollection, that's what I recall as well.
Yeah, this is Kate Donahue, and I'm looking at the vote, and that is consistent.
Okay.
They all voted for us to look at that. So, we want, Marty, you want to take a crack at just that
Sure.
one additional clarification that Dan suggested on.
So what if I just duplicate this sentence here and start right here and say the boundaries of voting districts so established shall be set from time to time by majority vote of the members of the council present at a meeting duly warned for such purposes at which a quorum is present.
Sounds great.
So,
Perfect.
but isn't it, I thought it was driven by the census.
Well,
Or can they literally do it whenever they want?
it's Dan Shopik. It actually, it doesn't have to be. It has to be done after the census. But in theory, you could do it in between. You know, like we're doing it now, there's a redistricting committee that's working on redistricting for the next election using the 2010 census data. So we are changing it before the
The 2020 data.
before 2020, yeah.
Okay,
Because the 2020 census data doesn't really come into play. I think the legislature has till 2021 sometime to do it, and then the town would usually follow after that, because we have to match up with, in some cases, with state rep and state senate lines.
okay. So there's nothing else that we have to worry about in terms of state statute?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Famous caveat, I don't think so.
All right, so if you're editing in real time, that gives us the opportunity to vote.
Do we want to make sure that, have Dan look to make sure it does follow all the state statutes before we vote on it?
I think you should vote on it, and then when you go back to the council, if it needs some further, because the council can reject the recommendation in any case, so.
Yeah, but then we don't have a lot of time after that. I want to try to make sure this is as right as we possibly can make it.
We have looked at it and think it's fine.
Did we take out the language which said basically that we want them to be a substantially equal population?
Yes, that's the line.
No, I didn't. I can't take, that's this language right here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Part of it's blocked by my screen. I see it.
Mhm.
Okay, take it
Do
back.
we want?
That
Do we
would,
wanna
that would
take
be,
that out?
that would be the only part that would be objectionable to anybody.
All right, I think it's fine. It's written.
So take the gray there. the
No,
gray line out.
And what, do we want to take that out?
no, I don't want.
I
Well,
don't want to take it out. I think it's.
oh, yeah. So what you're
I'm not
saying is,
suggesting you see it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I think Tom just said he didn't see it.
I see it now,
Oh,
so now I'm
okay.
shutting up.
Tom,
Yeah,
is Vic, I'm sorry, but I just see Vicky in the background. Is she packing and leaving?
Time to get a message. She's had enough of.
hi, Vic.
So the question is, do we move and vote on this now, or do we come back and just make sure and take the time to look at state stuff to make sure we're correct, or do we feel like we're on solid enough ground?
If we have enough, if we have.
Let me just report that the feedback I got from the Secretary of the State's office, from Ted Bromley, Secretary of the State's office, when I asked him about setting the actual number of districts, he said, a lot of towns do it. I'm not crazy about it, but I know they do it. So that's kind of, I don't think they view it as, and we've seen, and we've gone through a number of charters where the number of districts are laid out. So I think this is a way of dealing with the issue. I think that, very honestly, from a constitutional point of view, I don't think that if you live in District 4, you should be represented by more people on the town council than if you live in District 2,
Agreed.
or vice versa. So I think this is fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Who's
okay.
that? I'm sorry, I can't see if anybody's raising
Oh.
their hand. So, is
This
anybody?
was- This is JC. Is it superfluous to include that a duly warned for such purpose at the time for which a quorum is present? Is that language necessary?
I don't
No.
think so. Probably not.
So, I mean, would it be simpler to say voting districts so established shall consist of substantially equal population and the boundaries of which, or the boundaries of which the town council shall set from time to time with a majority vote or a majority of members of the town council, however you want to phrase that sentence,
Probably by a vote of majority of the town council. That would probably
just
be.
to
So I
simplify.
could take the whole meeting language out of the other sentence as well.
Right.
So it would look like, shall be set from time to time by,
And then take it out of the one above it too.
yeah,
All the meetings have to be,
by a majority vote of the council, right?
Yeah.
Pretty wordy. All right, so number of districts shall be established from time to time upon the affirmative of 2/3 of the members of the council.
I think actually,
Well, it could be present, two-thirds of those present or 2/3 of the council.
2/3 of the council.
Yeah,
2/3 voted. It assumes it's 2/3. Well, I guess that there are some things where it says 2/3 of the entire membership of the council. So I think that if you want 2/3 of the members of the council present and voting, is probably can be included there.
So we want to keep this gray
That-
language right here. We want to keep this in for the 2/3 vote.
Yeah, you can leave it. You just take you can just take out at which a quorum is present, because they wouldn't vote if a quorum weren't present.
Okay,
Okay.
let's go through it one more time.
want to read it again, Marty?
Sure. The number of voting districts in the town shall be established from time to time upon the affirmative vote of 2/3, 2/3, of the members of the council present at a meeting duly warned for such purpose. Voting districts so established shall consist of substantially equal population. The boundaries of voting districts in the town shall be set from time to time by a majority vote of the council.
That looks good to me.
Sounds right to me.
Okay, then, if somebody wants to make a motion,
I'll move.
okay. Mr. McCann, second.
I'll second it. Tom Tesoro.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion?
So, Marty, this is Nancy Gardner. The other part in red is what was in originally that we're not changing.
No, this was a change that we made that they didn't have an issue with. The council didn't have an issue with this, as far as I know.
They did not.
Yeah, nobody mentioned anything about this.
So-
In order to,
There- Can I
this
just,
language came to me red, so let me make sure that it's not. No, that's
that's in there now.
that's in there now.
Yeah, okay.
Last full week of June. Yeah, we're not changing that. So that should probably be it.
In black, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I think, Marty, if I have computer questions from now on, I'm calling you. This is very good.
Okay, so any other discussion? Okay, then call the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, that motion passes. So then, Marty, if you could unshare your screen.
I will. I'm sending this to Cindy right now.
Awesome.
And
thank you.
stop share, and there you go.
Nice job. Thank you very much. Okay. The next item, so we already took care of one in 45 minutes. is Chapter 2, Section 5A plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other instances of where we look, it's about posting on town website versus publishing in the newspaper or both. I had hoped to sit down and actually walk through this myself, so I had a recommendation on anything to change, but I didn't get there. So I think somebody, yeah, Cindy, I was thinking you and I could walk through this and come back instead of making everybody do it, and just give you a list of what we would change or how we would change the wording.
Couldn't we just Dan Shope again, couldn't you just agree to revert to present language with the and, but add posting on the website?
Yeah.
Yeah,
agree.
I agree with that.
Yep.
I can, this is Cindy Katsky. I can go ahead and do that. And then next time you can just take a look. And if there's anything that needs to be tweaked, we can do it that way.
Okay.
So is there ever, in any of these changes, an instance where it really does not have to go in the newspaper? Or are we just saying it always does? I mean, I got that letter from the town clerk, the recommendation didn't, some of the recommendations that they reversed actually came from the clerk of the town council.
So this is Cindy Katsky again. So what we're talking about here are town council notifications. A notice of the agenda items is required to be published 5 days before the meeting. A notice of adoption of resolutions is required to be published in the newspaper. And the only other instances relate to, well, there's publication of the budget by the Board of Finance and the Town Council during the budget process, and then there's referenda. So in any instance of referendum, the referendum question needs to be published.
That's
So
required under state statute, isn't it?
that's what's required under state statute. That's what the registrar came back to tell us needed to stay in. But other than that, you're just talking about town council notice, and she was hoping to make it less stringent. But, I think we've dealt with it for this long. It's fine to keep it as is. Just the budget, which kind of makes sense, I suppose.
Okay.
And referendum, so. Okay.
Right, I mean, I can see budget and referendum, they're huge issues. It's just so the agenda for the town council meeting has to stay in the newspaper.
And we never changed any of the land use and the things there was a bunch of postings that had newspaper that we did not change.
That's required by statute. We didn't.
Right.
Yeah, those really aren't addressed in the charter. That's sort of a different, you're talking statute, not charter.
Okay.
The only thing you may want to think about is the appointments that you agreed would not require emergency legislation. Could those be effective upon posting on the website?
I think there was the question there, this is JC, about what posted. If I recall correctly, there was what constitutes that? For selectmen, signature on.
I think that's for,
That's farther down.
Oh, that's something. Is that a separate line?
That's a separate line item. That's a separate issue.
But it's part of the same
It's list.
question. I think you're for any sort of legislation, it's not effective and won't be quote unquote posted until the first selectman has signed the legislation. So you could say upon approval by the first selectman, or upon final being posted after final approval of the adoption.
Okay, well, let's try to stay on this one, and we're going to get to that one in a minute. So I think the idea that's on the table is that we just add the posting on the website to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 instances that we had that we originally made the change to.
So in addition, so it's in addition to the newspaper also.
Yes, yeah. And then we'll look at the language next week in case there's anything that isn't right, but. So I would need a motion to have Cindy do that.
So moved, Nancy Gardner.
Second, Susan Gilson.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, let's call the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Okay, the next one is Chapter 2, Section 5B, the posting time for meetings. We had put it to 24 hours to align with FOI state stuff, and the council wants us to push it back to 48. Doing a little research, this is definitely bounced around in every charter commission. Nancy, didn't you?
Yeah, and well, also it was a request from the clerk of the town council to us. That's,
To go to
we
24.
received that, to go to 24. So then the town council,
Which was unanimous. I think it was 20-1 or 19-1 was the vote on that. So what do we want to do? Keep it at 24 or go back to 48?
I think I'd leave it at 48, because if they want to make sure that people get plenty of notice, we leave it at 48. I think you don't need more than 24. This is not something I want to argue with the council about.
I mean, yeah, they
Agree.
voted,
I
you
agree,
know,
Tom.
yeah.
Okay, so Dan, do we need a vote to say, yeah, we're going to remove it as a recommendation?
Oh, you might as well.
Okay, so can I get a motion to change the posting timing back to 24 hours? Or
So moved, JC.
48 hours.
Thank you, JC. Okay, second.
I'll second it, Tom Tesoro.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Okay, now we're back to the adoption of legislation, and they wanted clarification on, we said immediately upon posting on the town website, what does posting mean? And there was this, we had just started this discussion about the first selectman's signature, so I think we need to come up with some alternative language there.
Was the, it's Nancy Gardner, was the question here about the fact that the first selectman has a certain amount of time with which to contest, you know, an appointment? Is that it, Dan?
Yeah, anything the town council passes is subject to veto. So
Okay.
whether it's an appointment or any other legislation or ordinance. So you would have to, first selectman signs off on it or delivers a veto message. And if she vetoes it, then of course it's not passed and you wouldn't post it. But assuming that she signs off on it, the next step as it stands now is to have that approval. So it's approval after signature by the first selectman is then placed in the, is published in the Connecticut Post. It could be published, it needs to be published in a newspaper having general circulation. So Trumbull Times is a possibility, except that the once a week publication sometimes makes that kind of difficult. So generally speaking, we use the Connecticut Post. If you see the classified ads in the Connecticut Post this morning, last week's meeting of the town council was posted. So frankly, I think the only clarification you need is that it's you know, subsequent to final adoption. Final adoption is that the first selectman has signed off on it.
Or the town council.
Has overridden a veto. Either way, that's
Right, or if the town council overrides.
right. So it's after final adoption. It wouldn't be. It's possible. So it's not just a question of it's in your minutes, because yes, the minutes can reflect some that are put on the website may not reflect the final adoption. So it's really posting after final adoption. And I don't see, I mean, I'll throw it out to you. I don't see a difficulty in understanding what posting on a website is. But
We say publish.
yeah, you could call it publish on the website.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's probably not a term that's generally used
Right.
for putting something on a website, but it's not illegal.
So this is JC. Dan, do you need to be more specific on it and say, but after final adoption by the town council and the first selectman, just so there's no ambiguity?
That's fine. I think, sometimes more is better. Usually more is less is better, but in this case, maybe more is better.
Well, if the first selectman never
Proves it.
was it and doesn't approve it, then they would never be appointed. But the town council can override the first selectman's veto.
Yeah.
Correct. So it's
So you're saying
if the
just
first-
final adoption.
But wait, there's two issues here. One is the adoption of legislation. The other is appointment of people to the boards and commissions. My understanding was their objection was to the language for the legislation adoption.
Oh,
It's all in the same paragraph.
But then they got into a discussion of what is posting.
Right.
They kind of got bogged down on that question. I think
Right.
as far as your legislation is concerned, we'd say realistically, let's take it back to the realistic. Realistically, you're going to publish it in the newspaper after it gets posted on the website. Just logistically, you're not going to get it in the newspaper before it gets posted on the town website. So maybe just leave it for legislation. Just leave it at publication in the newspaper, and maybe that satisfies people. You can still post it.
You might, Dan, because if-
Cindy, you can't contradict me.
wow.
well, so the notice of adoption was published in today's newspaper, but
Yes,
the minutes are not posted yet.
correct. But it's effective as of today because it was posted in the newspaper.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. That whether or not it's been posted on the website, it becomes effective. It could be posted on the website before the newspaper, but it's very unlikely that it's going to be posted. It's going to be published in the newspaper before it gets posted or after it gets posted. You get what I'm saying.
Mhm, okay.
You need it. You don't want it in either or. All right. So if the effective date is a publication in the newspaper, then so be it. Leave it the way it is, and you still can post it, notice of adoption, on the web. So you can say it's effective upon publication, but the council, the town clerk shall also post it on the town website. Do it that way. Except it does show up in the minutes.
So do we want to make a distinction between adoption of legislation effective date and effective date of appointments to boards and commissions?
Well, I think you made that distinction when you said that all appointments become effective upon
Posting on the website.
upon approval. Yes, so that basically removes the necessity for every appointment to make an emergency legislation, number one, and then number two, it was to become effective without requirement. The difference here is that all legislation becomes effective upon publication, but becomes effective 15 days after publication. Okay, so the change that was being made was saying that the appointments would become effective essentially immediately. What that immediately is a question for you to deal with. But that was the difference. It was, and normal legislation, if you make it emergency, then that becomes effective upon publication and not 15 days after publication.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, are we trying to, do we need to define the posting on the legislation and also posting on the website for appointments? Because now I'm not clear. We say posting on the website twice in the same paragraph. Page 5 of our, or page 5 of the, you know, chapter 2, section 6, end of the paragraph.
Got it.
I
When they
think the
said-
first one has to just go back to publication.
But do you think we can leave the second one as posting on the website? Do we have to define what posting on the website means in that instance? The
I
second,
think that should go back to publication as well.
This is J.C. Sinelli. What generally is the lead time between once legislation is passed to when it actually shows up in the newspaper?
Well, the town council met on last Thursday night, and it was published today.
So almost a week, 6 days.
And that was a very quick. That had to do with one item that really needed. I mean, Margaret worked her butt off to get that done.
Because I thought that the spirit of, at least for the boards and commissions, was that so somebody's appointed or a group was appointed to a commission, they can immediately have a meeting and not have to wait until the publication, the delay. That was my understanding of the spirit of it.
Yeah. And therefore, posting on the website would make sense. It's not necessary for that to be in the newspaper 7 days later in order for it to become effective.
but how is it, in what form is it being posted on the website? As part of the minutes? Is it?
No, it's be posted a notice of town council action.
And that happens normally or not? Are we creating something new?
Well, it becomes a legal notice. We have legal notices posted on the website, all right? So that can be added as a legal notice.
Of appointment.
A notice of appointment to be posted in the legal notices section of the town website.
And there is such a thing?
What's that? Yeah, we do have a legal notices section. And we can always create one. That's easy.
Well, pick the question.
So for legislation, we're saying we're gonna change back from posting on the town website to
Just a publication.
Publication, okay.
Right.
And then on the appointments, we're gonna say posting on in the legal section of the town website, was that what?
Legal notices.
Posting of the appointment in the legal section of the town webs.
It is called legal notices
Yes,
on the website. Mhm.
yes.
On,
Can we call it publication in the legal notices section of the town website?
Sounds good.
To have an issue
Yeah,
with
but
posting?
we've used posting everywhere else.
We do use posting a lot.
Okay,
Agendas and minutes must be posted.
I know what it means, so.
Yeah.
okay, so posting of the appointment on the legal.
Notices section of the town website.
Just appointments,
Page, I guess it's the legal notices page, officially like a web page.
appointments of boards, commissions, and committee, appointments made of boards, commissions, and committees shall become effective immediately upon posting on the legal notices section of the town website.
Okay.
We need to say posting of the appointment just so there's no ambiguity.
I said posting,
Oh, you cut out.
Carl was asking what exactly gets posted.
Right. That was my recollection as well. Cindy.
Is it the resolution?
the appointment.
Is it,
John Jones has been appointed a member of the Charter Revision Commission, replacing Kate Donahue.
Cute Lord.
We weren't looking for volunteers, Kate.
I know all of you came forward with
The reason,
you read in the newspaper that a Charter Revision Commission was being formed. You called immediately.
So here's what we've got. The 15-day period shall not apply to appointments made of members of boards, commissions, and committees. Such appointments shall become effective immediately. Posting of the appointment on the legal notices section of the town website.
All right.
Yeah.
Is it done? I mean, if we say such appointments, do we have to say posting
you
of the appointment? Or is that the clarity we think they're looking for?
I would give them the clarity.
Give them the clarity. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they can always change. We can discuss it when we meet with them if they,
Okay.
I'm not
So,
going to come back and say we're too clear.
They get the final vote time.
yeah. Okay, so we think we captured, do we think we can vote on this?
Yes.
Okay, can I get a motion? Do you want me to read this back?
Please.
Okay, so we're going to change the sentence that says, unless such legislative action shall be designated emergency legislation as provided herein, or shall specify a later effective date, it shall become effective on the 15th day following publication.
In, is that what it?
Newspaper publication.
Oh,
Well, isn't publication defined?
It should be.
Um,
No, I would put newspaper so there's no question about, does that mean website or not? Just
yeah,
right. Because we're talking about website publications posting someplace else, so in the
Right.
same paragraph, so.
just add the extra word.
Yeah, except with reference to the annual budget, which shall become effective as hereafter provided. Okay. And then the second part of our motion is this next two sentences shall read as follows. The 15-day period shall not apply to appointments made of members of boards, commissions, and committees. Such appointment shall become effective immediately upon posting of the appointment on the legal notices section of the town website.
So moved.
so, yeah. Second,
All right, any more discussion on this one? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye, opposed. Okay, motion passes. I mean, opposed, abstain, motion passes. Okay, next one is Chapter 3, Section 3. Can you guys hear that background?
A little bit.
I don't know what that is.
What's that?
It's the whole executive absence, disability, vacancy, and they wanted us to look at the entire section, and they wanted to know what happens if we have to replace the treasurer. Are there 2 elections?
Just happens.
Yeah, to me, it just seems like, okay, if you have to
If
replace,
you want to change, if you want to change the, you can go back before the 2003 charter, the line of succession was to the director of finance. It was not to another elected official.
Mhm.
All right. And that was changed in 2003. And the idea then was the director of finance is in the building, knows what's going on. And it's essentially not a permanent situation. They changed it. They put the treasurer and the chairman of the town council in there. And I think it still was the order still was the treasurer, then the town council chairman. And so that really hasn't changed. Some of the language, how it happens has been clarified. But, you have people who have other jobs and maybe aren't looking to become first selectman for a month and have to take a leave of absence from a job, or they run a company, or they whatever it is that they do for a living, unless they're thinking they're going to take this and run for the office. Obviously, that's a different thing. But if the town treasurer takes on that position temporarily, he or she does not have to give up the position of town treasurer. All right, so it would only be if becomes a permanent thing, and then yeah, you would have to fill that position. That could be, that would be filled by the first selectman, same way any other elected official is. It'd be filled by the first selectman unless there's a petition for a special election.
So when I look back at the history on this, in 2011, they created that, they changed it from finance director to treasurer. In 2014, that's when the "or" went in, the treasurer or the town
But
council.
2014 was never passed.
Right.
But that's what's in the, how did that end up in the, how did that end up in the charter then?
It's not.
It's not.
2011,
No, in 2000, I'm looking at this blue charter right here, and it says
what page you on?
13.
13.
Appoint the town
Selectmen made by letter,
or the chairman of the town council. And I'm looking at the
but it's on the chairman of the town council in the event that the town treasurer cannot or will not serve. You got to read the whole sentence. So it's first to the town treasurer, and then to the chairman of the council if the treasurer declines. I think that's the only way you can read it.
Right. Right.
In pari materia.
What's that?
In pari materia.
What's-
Yeah.
All right. Now we're quoting Latin. Now we're in trouble.
Yeah. Only the town council if the town treasurer won't serve, cannot or will not serve.
Mhm.
In 14, they tried to change that, but it never passed.
Right.
Right.
Right. But the reason why they tried to change it was to minimize the need for a special election.
Well,
No, that was not the reason.
And well, that's what it says.
The reason they wanted to change it back then was that the treasurer was a different member of a
Party.
different party than the first selectman.
So what do we need to do to address this?
Can I ask a question? So what happens, okay, so the town treasurer is the acting first selectman, and the town treasurer decides to run for first selectman. So then is the special election for first selectman and town treasurer? Or is it just,
Yes, that's
I
what
would
was,
assume, yeah.
it all depends on timing. All right, if the timing is such that the town treasurer becomes the first selectman, for the balance of the term, then that's kind of where you are, right? If the,
Both roles.
also the town treasurer, they're in both jobs?
well, if he's only if the town treasurer is acting for selectman, then, all right. But if the town treasurer at some point becomes a permanent first selectman, all right, then there would be a vacancy in the office of town treasurer, which the first selectman would fill, subject to the ability of people to file a petition for a special election.
So the first selectman would have an opportunity to appoint that position.
Mm-hmm.
So where does it say that?
That's the general
That's under the,
vacancy,
is that under the
vacancy in elected offices in a different section.
Okay. So again, I think that's where we need to be clearer.
right.
Because I think that I felt like you were saying, well, you didn't make provisions for how you fill the treasurer's slot.
Yeah, that would be good to point to that, I think.
So where?
Where is that?
That is,
Vacancies in the town council.
electoral process is on page 73 of the blue charter.
You changed that or moved it around anyway.
I think the only thing that was changed was that the town clerk, upon vacancy, had certain requirements of the town clerk. But that doesn't change the substance, I don't think.
What chapter are we in?
Page 72.
Chapter 8.
Chapter 8. Chapter 8, Section 5, right? Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, there you go. By special election, if there is a petition filed, or by appointment by the first selectman, if there's no petition for special election.
That's happening right now. There's going to be a special election for the Board of Education because of the vacancy.
So then that's really, do you think we need to do anything other than refer them back to the charter and the provisions that are exist for filling the treasurer?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I think that does answer it.
That answers the question.
JC?
Yeah, I think they just wanted us to look at it again. I don't remember a specific change that they wanted us to make. They just wanted us to review our thought
make sure,
process
yeah.
and make sure we thought it through.
Right.
Okay, so we said Chapter 8, Section 5, you would follow the vacancy.
Right.
Okay. So we don't need to do anything there. Okay, now we're back to our favorite, we're on number 6, Chapter 7, Section 1A, Boards and Commissions, Board of Finance, Composition and Election, and we're back to our favorite topic, the alternate members.
Can we just say, can we just state it in the negative and say there shall be not more than two, there shall be not more than 2 alternate members from any one party?
That is what other charters use.
I think that's your present language.
No, we say,
No, the language in the present charter.
what's that?
The language in the present charter.
I'm looking at it, hold on.
Yeah, let me just, while you're looking, let me just remind everyone of the history here. This was put in because an aggressive first selectman decided not to give the minority members of the Board of Finance an alternate of the same party, and
Right.
instead had 2 of his own party and 1 unaffiliated, which put the minority members in the position of either selecting a member of the other party or an unaffiliated person appointed by the aggressive first selectman.
Yeah.
And the idea here is that we want to give the minority party, whichever party it is, the opportunity to have someone of their own party. We're not saying they have to be of their choice. We have to be just saying that they should have someone of their own party from which to select.
Yeah, the current language, the current charter just says Board of Finance. It says there
It's
shall
in
be
the ordinance.
members.
It's in the Code of Ordinances. This is Cindy Katsky. So in section 2-182B, it says, no, not more than 2 members of the panel of alternate members shall be of the same political party.
So you're saying we don't need to put it in the charter?
Well, no, what Tom is saying is that doesn't solve the problem we were trying to solve.
Right.
Doesn't solve the problem of trying to stack the alternates.
Right.
So Dan, I'm gonna say the idea I had earlier, and it may go nowhere or it may be something, but this is Cindy Katsky again. It just popped into my head, maybe something to the effect of any party that has at least 2 members on the Board of Finance shall be entitled to at least one alternate member.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well.
Can I make a thought, just to throw a thought out there? The council has no alternates. The Board of Education has no alternates. The P&Z does. Do we need alternates on the Board of Finance?
I don't know whether it's required by statute. I know it's provided for under statute. But I think the issue would be if first of all, you could have people who, for whatever reason, are disqualified. It's a relatively small board. So you have 6 people. If you have 3 of them are disqualified because of personal conflict, that could be problematic. Or if you just have have a night when a lot of people can't show up. You're basically dealing with, potentially dealing with
Or
less.
COVID, or half the board gets COVID-19.
Half of the board
Is
gets
sick,
covered.
Or
is sick for a couple months.
Well, let me ask this then, and then what was the original language proposed 2 seconds ago before I interrupted? What did you suggest, Cindy?
Something to the effect of any political party that has at least 2 members on the Board of Finance shall be entitled to at least 1 alternate member. The problem with that is that the alternate members have 3-year terms, and what happens if at an election, it changes the balance of the,
Nobody's going to have less than 2. Really? Is it?
Right, that's right. You can't have less than 2 as minority
Right.
representation.
So that ensures that there's 1 from each party.
Yes.
I guess the only obstacle would be if there's a third party that ever has enough clout in town to get 2 members, whether it's the Green Party or the
Conservative.
whatever party.
So that they would get an alternate.
They would?
But then you'd have the issue of
Three
the
alternates?
terms of the alternates and.
Well, then you would have 3 alternates. You would have,
Oh,
Which-
Would you
I'm
have,
saying-
you have to kick somebody off to put a Green Party?
worry about them.
yeah, I think you would.
But I don't know. I don't envision that happening anytime soon, but
And our unaffiliated voters, so if there were 2 unaffiliated voters on the Board of Finance?
Not even a party.
It's not a party. That's what I'm saying. That isn't a
not
party.
a party.
They would have to be running independently. That's not a.
Oh, right,
that's
and
a
not
party.
running with a party.
Well, if you run on a party's ticket for those purposes, you're considered a member of that party.
Okay. Okay. I actually do like that solution.
Yeah, I like Cindy's solution.
So do I.
Call it the Cindy solution. Put a footnote there.
Okay, why don't you say it again, Sin?
I'm not even that crazy about the language myself. Any political party that has
Excuse me
At
one second,
least-
guys. I'll be right back.
at least 2 members on the Board of
Regular
Finance.
Elected members.
Yeah,
2 regular members on the board.
on the Board of Finance.
Voting members.
Shall,
Voting members?
What's that, voting members? Is that what you said, Tom?
Yes, alternates only vote in the absence of a voting member.
we just call them members.
Okay.
All right, members then.
Okay, any political party that has at least 2 members on the Board of Finance
Shall be entitled to have at least 1 alternate member.
Mhm.
Of their party.
Of their party.
Of that party.
Or from that party?
Okay, so
From,
any political party that has at least 2 members on the Board of Finance shall be entitled to have at least 1 alternate member from that party.
yes,
Yes.
I like that.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
All right, Marty is still
Wait.
stepping away for a section.
Excuse me, Cindy, is the language here that says the alternates are appointed by the town council?
Yes.
Yes, okay, you're right, okay. Okay,
I mean, I think it would be good to try. Yeah, I think we should offer this as the language, since that answers what the problem we were trying to solve.
Does that solve issues with unaffiliated or any other potential party besides the 2 major parties?
I think it does, Jason.
You have 1 Democrat, 1 Republican, you could name an unaffiliated.
Right.
Right, again, presuming,
We're not saying
presuming,
what the third person has to be, right? We're only saying that we're just allowing that, if there's two members, you would have an alternate that could sub for you.
In the weird world, it never will happen, I don't think, where we have 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 2 Green Party members on the Board of Finance. Each one of them would be entitled to an alternate
Right.
when the term expires. I don't know how you put that, but yeah.
I think is the intent, right? The idea of that we're trying to,
And in the absence of that, if you had 4 Republicans and 2 Democrats, the Democrats would have 1, and the majority, and the Republicans have at least 1. So,
Right.
you know, then the council determine. Yep.
okay, any issues with this that anybody can think of?
Well, the question is, should the alternates be appointed the same year that the Board of, what's the term of the Board of Finance? 4 years?
4 years.
So why are the alternates only 3 years?
No idea. Well, but there's election every 2 years, so there's overlap. We've had times when there have been 3, it's been 3 and 3. Just, it can't be, Tom, you were there when it was 3
I
and
don't think
3.
there's any way because
I
of
was on the
minority
Board of-
representation, there's no way that anybody would not get, right? I mean,
I was on the Board of Finance for 8 years. It was 4-2, 3-3, and 2-4.
right.
So it changed with
it
that
didn't-
guy.
it's impossible for it to be 5-1 where one side wouldn't
Yeah.
get,
Right.
right?
No, it
So,
can't be.
and you get at
Well,
least
with-
one. It's the
Yeah.
disposition of the third that would
Right.
continue to be, you know, up for grabs, but at least each party gets one,
Right.
which is what I thought.
What we're trying, that's what we're trying to do. Right.
Party that has 2 gets 1. Now,
Yes,
in wacko world where you have one party with 2, and then the other 4 from different parties, only 1 is entitled to 2, a 2
Correct.
and alternate.
Yeah.
1 with 2.
yeah.
wacko world.
Exactly.
I thought we were living in that right now.
We're getting there. We're getting there, Jason. If we're not there, we're almost there.
So do
I,
you think this
this is-
works?
I- this is Cindy Katsky again. I worry about that very unlikely but possible scenario where you might get a third party that gets 2 seats, and yet maybe the seat that's the next alternate seat that comes up is one of the other parties that can't be changed. Do you have to fire somebody to make it work? I haven't worked through the permutations.
Yeah,
and
that's kind of
combinations.
my question. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, they could always change the ordinance and appoint alternates for a year. But then you have continuity issues and,
We're in the charter. Can we fix the term in the charter? Wouldn't that then take precedence over the ordinance?
yes. But do you want alternates with a 1-year term?
The reason they're 3-year terms is because there's 3 alternates. That was kind of how it worked out.
But a 2-year term should solve the problem, right? Because are the Board of Finance terms staggered or
Yeah.
6 every time?
Yeah, they're,
3 and 3 every 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So that's when the mix could change, right?
Right.
So if it's a 2-year,
It doesn't necessarily affect the person who happens to be be an alternate, right? I've got 2 Democrats sitting as alternates, and somebody else has, and those 2 seats are up that year. And Well, I don't know. This math is too complicated for me.
No, I think that, you know what, I actually think that's why they made it 3 years, so that it wasn't going to be the same year as an election year.
It was 3 years because there's 3 people, so each one's term is up each year.
That's why Cindy's language actually.
And they're appointed, right?
Huh? Appointed by the council.
First selectman recommends, the council approves, but since one of them comes up every year, basically every year, it solves the problem. Because when it changes over, by the time the next year comes, we'll be able to put an alternate of the party. Let's say it solves the problem, because the individuals, they can basically change them every year. That's where it comes out. So,
But what,
or we can just forget about this and just hope and pray that we don't elect another ridiculous first selectman who thinks it's his prerogative and a supine town council.
Tom, you're on the record. Tom, you're on the record, please.
Good.
Cindy, can you finish what you were going to say?
well, I was gonna say, if you have a Democrat and a Republican and an unaffiliated alternate, and then you have an election at which a third party gains a seat, but it's the Republican alternate that's due to be replaced, then
I just think the chances that a third party is going to get 2 seats
I agree.
is slim to none right now.
I agree.
Another 10 years might be different. That could be another charter revision commission's problem to solve.
I
I
mean,
just wouldn't be surprised if this is brought up.
I would be ready to defend it then at the next meeting.
You guys like my idea better than I do.
No, I think Cindy's right. I think there's a potential to, it could happen, and I think somebody may raise the issue. So we need, at least me, be able to be well reasoned in it.
Yeah.
Not just to say, well, probably won't ever happen. I don't think that's good enough.
Right.
So then what's
So
our,
I guess I'm at that point where there's going to be no language which is going to address this, and have the scenarios where it snows in July and I grow hair back, all of which are possibilities but are highly unlikely. So maybe the best thing we can do is leave the language just as it is in the charter and just hope for the best.
The ordinance,
Say again?
in the ordinance.
Can you
change the ordinance. If somebody comes up with something else to put in the ordinance, you can change it in the ordinance.
So we're having one more meeting, Kate, is that right?
yeah,
Well, I guess if anybody thinks of anything before then we could always revisit that issue. But I
So-
think I'm
Unless
inclined
you
to.
finish up tonight, then you don't have to have another meeting.
We're
well,
not,
we still got to look at all of our reasoning, which I don't think we're going to get to tonight. So I really want to tighten up our explanations. What about just going back to one from each major party? I know we talked about this before and said it wasn't specific enough, but
No, I think we run into the problem as to what constitutes a major party.
I agree. I think we do run into that.
just leave the ordinance language. and-
I would go back to the language as it already exists. I would just get rid of our recommendation. That's my thought.
Yep, I'm with you on that too, JC.
Yeah.
don't want to give this one up, but
But the other thing is, I mean, the town council could change the ordinance, right? They could vote for that, right? If they like the language that Cindy offered, they could change the ordinance to that.
Correct.
okay, so do we need a
And this is the charter. This is supposed to be the long-lasting thing. So over time, it is possible that we're not anticipating a third party, but there certainly could be. And so,
Okay, so do we need a vote? Dan, do you think just to say we're going to remove our recommendation?
Yes.
I'll move that we remove our recommendation, go back to the existing language.
I'll second.
Okay, so it's JC and Marty. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, that one passes. Okay, next one is,
Excuse me, this is Cindy again. I just noticed there that major party is defined in the statutes. I don't know if that changes anything.
It is?
It is. So
It's defined by how many votes you get at the last.
yes, a political party or organization whose candidate for governor at the last preceding election for governor received, under the designation of that political party or organization, at least 20% of the whole number of votes cast for all candidates for governor, or it's a political party having at the last preceding election for governor a number of enrolled members on the active registry list equal to at least 20% of the total number of enrolled members of all political parties on the active registry list in the state.
I think that's where you
Could
had,
end up with three.
Joe
places.
Lieberman ran as a conservative if you, at some point along the way.
And then the minor parties currently in Connecticut are the Green Party, Independent Party, Libertarian Party, and Working Families Party.
I wouldn't go there.
No.
Yeah.
I just- Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we could have, I mean, you know, over time then you could have more major parties. You know, Europe.
Just thought I'd bring that up because I
Yeah.
just Googled it.
That particular ship is already out of the harbor.
Yeah.
ONCs need to change what we just did. Okay. Next one is the Ethics Commission. So I don't know how we want to tackle this one. I do feel that after the two meetings we've been in, that maybe we need to be clearer about what we want to change. And this may be one where I think maybe even in our report, we highlight, we redline it. So the current and the proposed, because it's really hard to read through all of that and see what's in and what's out. And I think we got to at least be clearer about our explanations, because I don't think anybody really understood what we were saying and why we were saying it. It's kind of what I got out of it. So I don't know what other thoughts people have. Tom did seem to be saying some new things last week, at least in the quick summary we got from the clerk. So I'm not even sure I fully understand what all of his objections are, but I think we need to at least, you know, think through what's the right thing to do here. So are there other thoughts about this? Anybody else that's dug in? Marty? Tom?
I think when we started the meeting that Tom Lee said he was going to write up his recommendations for us to consider so that we would understand them. So my guess is on this one, if we're going to have another meeting anyway, I would hold this one in advance until we got his letter so that we can review it and then consider it.
That makes sense to me. Does anybody object to that?
No, that's fine.
I thought Marty did a good job with it. I'm not sure.
I thought he did too.
I don't have any more.
I have no more to give.
I'm all give that.
No personal opinion.
Well, we have,
We have some of his things we know.
right, I have what we got from the clerk, right? This was for.
Yeah.
I remember there was a lot of discussion over the word material.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Then there was discussion about due process for both the person who's responding and the complainant.
And then
Right.
then there was another thing about the, you know, who they're referring to the police for criminal.
Yeah, the police.
Yeah.
Right. I think he said that in the ethics, in the code of ethics, it talks about cross-examination for both people, and we didn't reflect that change in the charter. So
Well,
was that one of them?
yeah, that's one of them. But if you look at the code of ethics, let me see if I can find it.
I've realized I have a copy.
Can we make whoever prints this the same printer as that prints this, because this is very difficult to read. The printing is so small.
There's a PDF on the town website. If you want, I can share a screen again.
No, that's fine. I can see it. What section are you in, Marty?
I'm in case procedure, section 2-550. And then the guts of the procedure are in 550 sub D. And I remember when we were first talking about this, Tom Tesoro was very concerned about the ability of a complainant to simply drop a complaint and then refuse to participate, which actually happened while I was on the town ethics, while I was a full member of the Ethics Commission. The respondent did not get an opportunity to cross-examine. And it says right down in the last sentence of subsection D, the commission may proceed in absence of any person charged with the complaint, the charging party, or any witness, but shall make every effort to receive sufficient competent evidence in order to render a just and final decision. That particular respondent never got the opportunity to cross-examine his complainant. I thought the case should have been dismissed. It was not. I guess I struggle with this because this is not only an adjudicative body, but it's an investigative body as well. So as I said, I'm not really sure that, at the end of the day, Tom, the worst that could happen to somebody here is they get a censure. Or if it's a hired official, maybe they lose their job, but that's never happened as far as I know.
Well, to me, it's just a matter, and I understand what you're saying. To me, it's a matter of fundamental fairness. There's nothing that prevents someone from filing a complaint against someone on the most spurious of things that the commission, for whatever reason, decides to go forward and investigate, and the respondent is sitting there going, oh, "This guy, he said I did this, and I'm not here. He's not here for me to tell. Where did you get this evidence from?" I just don't think that's right, and that's why. I think what happens is there's too much discretion placed in the commission to investigate, but not enough rights in the respondent to defend themselves. I don't think that's right. I just don't think that's right.
Well, I'm sorry.
If it was me, last point. If I was in a position where someone filed a complaint against me, and then just walked away, and the commission decided to go forward, I wouldn't show up, and it puts the commission in a position of being, of investigating without both a complainant and a respondent, and that gets crazy after a while. I mean, that's just absolutely out of their mind. That's crazy. Due process should apply in any where your reputation is at stake, and the censure is, that goes on your record, and people will use that in the future. If anything where your reputation is at stake and you don't have a chance to cross-examine the person who's accused you, I just don't feel that that's right. And I'm sorry to be digging my heels down on this, but I just don't feel that that's right. But again, we'll vote, and if I'm in the minority, I'm in the minority.
So Nancy Carter, I have a question. So first of all, is one place to change this is to change the code, right? I mean, who wrote the code?
The Ethics Commission writes its code.
Actually,
It's
the council-
adopted
No,
by
the council
Oh, the council
does.
does? Oh,
the council adopts the code.
okay,
So the council could change this, is that correct?
yes.
This sentence, to put due process into the code itself? Because if we change the charter, then the code is out of sync with the charter, right? Is that correct?
Charter
What we're
with,
saying is we would make that decision and then the code would have to be adjusted because the charter takes precedence.
yes.
And one of the changes that we proposed was it left to the discretion of the commission. This was one that Tom, you were pretty insistent on. The provisions of the code notwithstanding, the respondent, this is what we decided on. The respondent shall be afforded an opportunity to cross-examine the complainant and witnesses against the respondent, and failing such opportunity, the Ethics Commission may, in its discretion, dismiss the complaint. That language is not in the ethics code, but the current makeup of the Ethics Commission and the degree of discretion that is what is concerning you, Tom, right now, leads me to believe that this language is not going to be relied upon by the commission to actually act upon. So I don't think, on reflection, I don't think that that particular change that we proposed will have the desired effect.
But if it's in the charter, I mean,
Well,
But you said may. If you said
May,
shall,
so, right.
You said shall, that's a lot different.
this JC, and that was my recollection of our conversation of it, that we wanted to give the Ethics Commission the discretion. It's my understanding that Mr. Lee's objection is that he wants the commission to investigate everything, regardless of whether or not there's
Yes.
a person actively prosecuting their complaint. So
Yeah.
I still think it's, even without that, it's still within the discretion of the Ethics Commission. If you don't see anything there, you're eventually going to disband your investigation of that issue, right?
Yeah, so I think the language we proposed is precatory at best.
would you be looking, thinking of changing it to shall, Marty?
No. Because, no. I don't feel as strongly about this as Tom does. I'd be willing to let the town council change the ethics code.
well, that would be
Well, I guess,
more in alignment with the way we thought about purchasing policies and procedures.
Right. Yeah, we took all the procedure out and we're leaving that up to the council.
Tom, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
no, that's right. That was fine. I guess the point I was going to make is, I think we debated it. Do we want to wait to hear what Tom Lee says before we vote on anything?
Well, this is JC again. I think we've already gotten a letter and his statement that he gave it at the town council. I think I understand his position of it. We need to decide whether or not we want to agree with his position or if we want to stay with what we've already voted on.
Okay. So I guess there's three major areas that he brought up. One was materiality, the other was we were just talking about, and the third was, what's the third one? I keep forgetting.
The discretion of the ethics to go to the criminal authorities.
Criminal authority, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we can discuss each of those and vote on those. I mean, I don't mind that. I mean, we want to move this along. I think it's probably okay.
Why don't we wait until we get his last letter?
I agree with that. I think that's the fair thing to do because you consider everybody else's point of view. So I know
My
you-
inclination is to go with the change to the definition of town personnel
Yeah, I think we need that.
And then just leave the rest of this to town council.
And
Okay.
we took a lot of this out, right? Because it's in the,
Yeah, we could continue, yeah, we could continue to, you know, depending upon what Tom Lee says, all of the stricken language in D, Romanets 1 through 4, it's already in the ethics code, so I don't see any reason why it needs to be here. And back to Kate's point, you know, that's consistent with what we've done with purchasing. So I think we could leave that deletion in place. And we explained that to town, I thought, to the satisfaction of town council, why all that language was stricken.
I don't think they had any issue with that.
There,
yeah.
right. I don't think there was anybody really on the town council that had a strong position on it.
No.
Okay, so we'll come back to this next week.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, then the last one is Chapter 8, Section 9, Electoral Process Bonded Debt. The direction from the town council was to put this as a separate ballot question. So, you know, here's the tricky part for me, right? If we put it as a separate ballot question and it gets voted down, then we still have a $15 million limit. We still have no process for the referendum. So,
Dan Epic, if I could, I think first of all, that it doesn't really matter what you recommend, because the town council is the one that actually determines how these things go on the ballot. However, I think that if we're going to divide the question, I think the process should be part of the package, the general package, right? Because I think you need to know how a referendum is going to take place, how many, whether you need signatures, you don't need signatures, how many votes, and that kind of stuff. The issue really revolved around the amount, about $15 million. There was really no support, very little support for reducing that to 10. And there was very little support really for reducing or for coming off that, although I think there was more.
they were both voted down. So
They were both voted down. I think the idea of, so if you're going to put the question as a separate question on the ballot, I suppose the question to put on a separate question on the ballot is whether you're going to index it. That would be.
No, they voted that down. I think
They voted it down, yes. They just said they wanted it as a separate question. What I'm saying to you is that the possibility that this is going to go down, you know, what's it going to go down over?
Yeah.
The issue that's going to go down over is the indexing.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That's already been voted down.
It was voted down by the town council. Town council could still put that on the ballot as a separate question. All right. They've asked that you go back and reconsider putting that on the ballot as a separate question.
Not the CPI, the whole.
Well, they said the whole thing. But what I'm saying is that part of it, I think the only reason that they wanted it on the ballot as a separate question is not because of the procedure to have how a referendum is going to take place. Is really, and you can, you know, you're going to have a discussion with the L&A committee of the council before this is you know, gets finally determined and can flush that out. But I think I really think that is what was driving the idea. What was driving the idea of putting it out as a separate question is not whether you're going to have a procedure for holding a referendum.
So why? We're essentially, in our recommendation, repeating what's the language that's already there. Chapter 8, Section 9, subsection A, B, and C. We added language to B, put the CPI in. then we added a section 4, which was, or C and D. We added D, E, and F to explain how we were going to do it. Could we just not put section A and B and take the CPI out? I mean, give in on that and just put the language in to be voted on for the procedure only. Don't repeat what's already, anything that we don't actually want to change. Yes, Tom.
So I'm sorry to be pest, but I thought we did a very good job on this one. I thought we thought this one through thoroughly, that we set in place a proper procedure, both to do indexing and to handle a referendum. I don't think they truly understood what they were saying when they were talking about putting it as a separate question. I think they were confused as to some, all these numbers flying back and forth. I wouldn't change this one bit. I would put it back to them saying we recommend that this be considered as part of the charter. We're not recommending it as a separate ballot. We think what we have in place here is the right thing. I don't think we should take the CPI out. I think that's a mistake.
We already compromised it by not going to $17.5 million to start.
Correct.
JC.
Well, I think there's two things here. So I agree with what Tom said, but I also hear what Dan's saying. I think the concern is that we potentially lose the non-substantive changes, right? The stuff we did just to kind of fix it, with people potentially conflating this issue of the indexing with the amount. And I think that's why we may want to consider recommending it as 2 questions so that we don't lose the process. Am I misinterpreting what you said, Dan? Because that's
No, well, here's the only thing is the are people going to vote down the budget, the charter revision? All right, there's a question. Is a possibility of voting down charter revision over the question of a CPI? Is that going to kill the whole thing? All right, so we've taken and we've said the Board of Education should be a separate issue. That's a major issue for the town. It's a big change. It's something that there's been a lot of feeling about over the years, and that we think should be a separate question. Originally recommended that the 7 districts be a separate question, and that's gone anyway, so that's not going to be a separate question. So we're down to the Board of Ed being a separate question. Does this rise to the level of the Board of Ed as a separate question, whether there's going to be the CPI? And do you really think that people are going to vote against the charter because you put CPI in this particular provision?
Nancy.
Nancy Gardner, I agree that, first of all, I don't think there should be a question on the bonded debt. I do think there was confusion for that vote about what we actually were trying to do. And I do think if we are going to suggest any question on bonded debt because they asked for one, we do have to split the 2 and separate out because we absolutely need to provide a procedure for a referendum. And so I think the question is, if we want to have a bonded debt question, do we want to index the bonded debt? And I don't even know whether it's necessary to do that at this point. So is it that important that we index it? I don't know, but I do think it would have to be, that would be the separate question, is whether to provide indexing. And we'd have to explain that to the population.
And this is JC again. And the fact that there was that, we'll call it confusion during the meeting with just the 21 people on the town council, when you go to push this through to the entire electorate, that confusion could reappear. And then you get the sort of the proverbial, they are looking to spend a bunch of more money. Don't vote for this charter revision. That's my concern. And that's how I read what Dan said. So if we think that the indexing is a good idea and we'd like to see it as a question, then maybe we should pull that piece out and make it a separate question.
Right. And I do think, to keep it simple, because I do think that, the town voted on this number, this was a number, we voted on it. So do we want to just let that go? That was a separate question, right? The last time we voted on charter revision? In 2000?
No, it was buried in the charter. Mm-hmm.
It was was buried in the charter? Ah, okay. But it was something that was voted on, the town voted on it, and do we want to leave that?
And you know, I listened to what JC said and Dan said, and I come to the same conclusion they do. That I think having the process in place is an absolute necessity, and that should be in there. And the question could very simply be, do we want to index the $15 million using the CPI calculation, and let the people decide that? And I think that's a smart both politically and from a standpoint by political I mean not party political, but I think allowing the people to speak on that is the right political choice, because it's their money. They should be able to say whether they want it indexed or not. So I'm in agreement recommending that the CPI piece be a separate part.
So then we would be saying there would be 4 questions on the ballot: the Board of Ed, the CPI, the procedure, and everything else, or CPI and everything else?
3.
Yeah, that's it. 3 questions: Board of Ed, everything else, and what was the third one?
CPI.
Oh, CPI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that.
Because that gives the town an opportunity, the people an opportunity to express their views on the Board of Ed, which is the big question, and then whether or not they want to index the 50 million. 30 years from now it'll be worth $1.80, but that's fine. Don't worry about it then.
Rupees.
I think that's the right way to go. I think Dan and JC were smart to say that.
Thank you, Tom.
I think we did a little looking around. It's really hard to do apples to apples in other towns, just because everybody has a different way of doing this. So Nancy, I think you took a look and couldn't find a lot of comparability.
Yeah, I did look at a lot of different charters on this, but because 2/3 of the towns in Connecticut have referendums on their budget, they basically do referendums on everything. If you want to spend money, you have to have a referendum. So there were a lot of possibilities of looking what other towns are doing on this.
Okay, so the motion would be to keep the CPI language, but split that out as a separate question, keep the procedural language, but recommend that stay with the everything else parts of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct.
Okay. So can I get somebody to make that motion?
I'll move. So move. JC.
Thank you, JC.
I'll second it, Tom. So,
Okay, any further discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 all right.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, that's the end of my list. I didn't actually think we were going to get this far, so I'm pretty happy.
Well,
So I wasn't really ready for the next part, which was, re-looking at our explanations and seeing if there was anything we wanted to tighten up. So I think the Ethics Commission and that reasoning editing I think it's what's back on the table for next week. So if you guys have any suggestions on updating the reasoning, Nancy?
I would it would help me if I had an assignment for reasoning. What I've been thinking about is we have a lot of feedback now, and we had a lot of questions during the process from all the public hearings, the L&A and town council. Can we go back to each section that we changed and really think through what are the questions that people had about that? And can we provide better explanations to anticipate people's questions so that the public, when they go to read that report, can better get from the report what were the reasons that we made those changes based on the questions that we got and feedback that we got.
Makes sense to me. I'm also,
If we can take different assignments so that we're not all doing all of them and then.
Because the other thing that, I've still been trying to find the stuff from the 2011, because it's not on the website, on the town website. Bill Chin has continued to dig to look for stuff. So I'm gonna hold up, hopefully you guys can see. I'll send this to you. I just didn't get a chance to do it. But this is the format that the 2011 questions went out in. So it's like the chapter and section, and then like just 2 sentences on why they made the change. And sometimes it just said the proposed revisions are technical in nature. Now this is they had, oh my God, there must be 70 changes in here. There was a lot. So I think also thinking about trying to make it as easy for the town council as possible to put this to the public. I want to try to give them as complete a package as we can so that we control that, that we get the right narrative, the right explanation. So Nancy, you want to take a run? You think we should run through the report and?
Well, yeah, I mean, just if people would take, this was my plan to work on this weekend, and it overwhelmed me just thinking about it. So I thought maybe if I don't have to do the whole thing, because we do have a lot of information now, so.
Right.
Look, I'll volunteer to do the Board of Education and send it to everybody before next week. I'll do it this weekend at the beach with a scotch and be clear as bell. So.
Well, and I think it's about maybe like bouncing off of somebody else, making sure that we are as clear and succinct as we can be.
Are we doing this with every single change we've proposed?
I think we should look at them all. I don't know that they all require
Yeah, they won't all necessarily need changes.
rewriting. So like the first of chapter 1, section 4B, I think that reason, I don't know that we would have to explain more than that unless somebody else has a.
It's business days.
I'm trying to think about the best way to do this because we all have to recall what we got questions on from the LNA committee and the town council.
When are we supposed to be having the minutes? I think that's the important thing, right?
Cindy, when do you think we'll get the minutes?
I think tomorrow.
We had the votes down, but she didn't have the full minutes of the meeting.
So Nancy, why don't you and I talk and then how about if I send out an assignment list?
Well, I think people might volunteer for some things, but like the calendar days versus business days. We did get asked about that. Are we clear about when we change those? Is it clear to people why we changed business days? Do you think?
You're right. I don't think they totally.
I don't think people got that.
It was business days.
It was business days, and we changed to calendar.
We changed chapter 2 to calendar days. And then
and that was to give, because we wanted there to be less time.
Well, yeah, as a practical matter, it is very difficult to, in the course of a month, to comply with the, for the town council to get out an agenda.
1 second.
Basically 5 business days prior to a meeting, having that agenda published in the newspaper, or the notice of the meeting published in the newspaper. It cuts off almost 2 weeks of the month for getting the agenda together. So there are times you just can't get everything that you really want to get on an agenda. You can't get it on the agenda because you have to wait another month to get it done.
So maybe we just need to add a sentence there that's
right.
Is why the legislative process, we decided to keep it to calendar. But calendar days is less time.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So just another sentence as to why we.
It also affects the effective date of legislation that gets passed. So it speeds that up.
Okay, so I think we just need a little more explanation there because I think people found that confusing. So who wants to
So
take?
I will tell you, as far as effective date of legislation, when you figure in the time for the first selectman to approve or veto, and then you've got to get it to publication, and that takes a day. And then when it's published, it's 15 business days. So you're talking, these things go into effect about a month after the vote, which is, that's a long time.
Okay.
So 15 calendar days.
I think it would be helpful if we
Better.
solve that better. Why it is a benefit to the public.
Yes. It may also cut down the number of times you have to do emergency legislation because it's, that kind of just.
Because anybody that looks at this is going to say, why did this need to be changed? What problem are we fixing? So I think we got to make sure we
Right.
explain that. So Nancy or Cindy, one of you guys want to?
I will work on that and with Cindy's help.
Okay. Okay, so then that's Nancy and Cindy. Okay, then the next one is Town Council. This was the first, Chapter 2, Section 1. We didn't get any comments on that, so I think that one's okay. The Town Council, we are going to need an explanation for that, right? Since we're going to change the language.
So are we talking about the redistricting?
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that one if you want me to do that one.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just trying to mark up my stuff as I go here. No change. No change. Okay, the next one is the meetings. This is the whole publishing, posting. We're going to change that back. So, oh, well, we're going to add websites. So that should be, maybe, Cindy, we can do that one in the same. Maybe we could do it the same way that we did the days one, where we just said, okay, it's going to be website and publication, and here's all the sections that it affects. And then
We're actually adding transparency, right? We're saying it needs to be in more places rather than.
Right.
That's right.
So that's the updated explanation.
I also think it reflects the fact that the majority of people are getting their information online.
See, that's good.
Okay, so who wants to write that one up? Come on, somebody.
I can work on that.
Okay, great. Okay, then on the 48-hour one, we're going to change it back to 48 hours, right? So
That's a non-change, right?
we don't have to
No
explain.
recommendation.
We don't have to explain something we're not changing.
Yeah, we don't. Okay. Next one is adoption of legislation. This is all this publishing and posting stuff. So we shouldn't have to, that'll get covered in the other one, the same on the emergency legislation. Oh, and we did have this appointment language. And I think maybe, I think our explanation for that is, if we just need to edit it a little bit. So I'll do that one. Okay, then we're on Chapter 2, Section 8, publication. Okay, that could fall into the other one. Now, chapter 3, section 3, the vacancy. What do we end up doing on that? Oh, so this one, we just feel we need to add to the explanation that we have vacancy rules in chapter 8, section 5. So Tom, can you add that in?
Sure.
Okay, then the next one is the purchasing. I still can't believe we didn't get any questions on that, but I don't think we need to change anything there.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares, I guess. Okay, the bonding, that the one that was, we were bringing the charter into conformity with the state. Nobody asked about that, so I think that one's okay. Adopting the annual budget, that's the publishing one. This is all still more adapting the budget, so we can cover all that. Then the modernizing the language on the general fund. Nobody asked about that. Then we're on Board of Finance.
We're just taking that out, so.
So that's going to come out. Okay, then the next one is Board of Ed. Do you think we need a stronger recommendation on this or a stronger reasoning?
I don't think anybody had any
Work on that, right?
issue with the increase from 6 to 8, so.
I think it was there were some comments on the term, wasn't there?
Well, the comments, yeah, there's some comments about the term, but I think the greater comment was about the, you know, and again, I don't think it came from a lot of people, but it did come from some, that you were creating a situation where now the town committees are electing the Board of Ed.
Right.
Right. And Tony Sinto did ask us to keep it at 7.
Well, there were a few people who came out, I think, who said they would keep it at 7, but that went down pretty
Yeah.
handily.
I don't think we need to.
I don't think we need more.
Do anything more. Okay. Next one is Police Commission. Nobody asked about that.
That's a lot, yeah.
Parks and Rec. Nobody asked about that. Ethics we'll come back to.
Nominate Marty.
I nominate
Marty doesn't want to spend another word on
We
it.
all nominate.
Marty's got to go to the next ethics commission meeting. They're going to throw things at him.
Okay, Commission on Aging. We did not have questions on that, but our Commission on Youth, there were. People don't like the youth. Do we need a stronger?
There was really only one person that didn't like the Youth Commission.
Keith.
Yeah, Keith was not crazy about it, but he
He'll
had
get
his
over it.
say, and I think everybody moved on.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll leave that one. Official.
That's going to hold anybody back from voting for charter change, whether or
Right.
not we have a youth commission or not.
The next one, Chapter 7, Section 23, on the removal of appointees. That did not get any pushback. The next one is the public notification, which we'll deal with. The electoral process majority limitation. Didn't get any questions on that. Vacancies. Oh, that was the one where they wanted us to, no. Wait, what is this one?
It was only that requiring the town clerk to post it on the website.
Oh, right, okay.
And I don't think there was any.
And then the same thing on the referendum and the voting procedure, that all seemed fine. More on the referendum language, publication, so we'll deal with that with our publication and posting. The form of the question didn't get any questions, and just this bonded debt one. I think maybe in our explanation, I mean, we were trying to set the context saying that the threshold had already been set,
Mhm.
that it wasn't us.
That's our current reason.
Yeah, we're gonna, and this is the one we're gonna split. So Nancy, do you want to,
Yeah, I'll just put it, make it a two-part.
okay. And then the registrar of voters, that didn't come up. So we only have a couple of sections to take a look at. All right, so hopefully then next week, the only things we're doing is, it's going to be important to really look at the minutes from this meeting though, because we got to make sure we got all of our language correct. Because next week we'll also sort of have to approve, I think, our final draft again. So we're gonna have to make sure we got all our documents squared away. Cindy, can we just review, and Dan, the timeline? Because that was the other thing I wanted to make sure we were 100% clear on, like when we have to do what by.
Cindy? I think it's going to require a special meeting of the council, I think, sometime in August. Is that correct? Or
Well, so here's the question. If we, can we have, you have to confer with the town council. And in the
Yeah, so
past,
that was my question, was, is it just the council? Because I didn't see another LNA meeting. I just saw in the schedule just the council. So I think,
in the last go round, the LNA was the delegated group from the council, and Mary Beth is inclined to do that again. So that the LNA would act on behalf of the council, and then make its final report to the council for the council vote.
So we would meet with the LNA,
So meet with the LNA committee, yes,
but not with the whole council again.
Right. That seemed to have satisfied people in the last charter revision. And it, I think, makes it a bit easier to have some real conversation without going through 21 people there and 6 people here. It's
okay, so then what's exactly our timeline?
so one option would be to schedule a meeting with LNA a week from tonight. And you can review everything with them. And then after that meeting, you can have a brief meeting just to finalize if there are any things you need to finalize, the ethics, and anything else that comes of your discussion, you're conferring with LNA. And then we could pretty quickly, I would think, get the final report in order by the end of that week. So that'd be by Friday the 24th. And LNA would have their regular meeting on the 27th. But they should have a pretty good handle on everything because they've just conferred with you. And they'll get a feel for what you're thinking. And I don't think you're making a lot of changes. You've agreed with them on some of the changes. And then it would go to the council at the August 3rd meeting. Am I right, Dan?
yeah, which would be the preference, obviously, to give time to get the ballot set and all that. But I think we said the outside date would be the September meeting, or the week before the September meeting's on the 9th. We really need to get it done earlier in September. So yeah, if it can get done for the August meeting, that would be good.
So to go back to your first reference point. So we meet with the town council next Wednesday before and then we get back together, we continue our meeting after them.
We may want to do before, middle, and after.
Before, middle, after.
So we're just talking about the ethics piece next week, correct?
Yeah, why wouldn't we meet one more time, take care of the
That's-
ethics,
yeah.
then meet with LNA?
Well, what if we met
Yeah.
from like 6:30 to 7:30 and then have the LNA meeting at 7:30?
I'm okay with that.
Dan, would they have to have a separate meeting after conferring with LNA?
I'm looking at the statute as we're sitting here.
Can this commission, in their joint meeting with LNA, make motions and votes for any additional changes?
Hold on.
So you're saying in
Two-thirds makes
case
recommendations
that
for change.
LNA tells us something else that they want us to consider.
And it's your, LNA and town council are there to make recommendations and you're supposed to confer. But then you get to decide if you want to accept those recommendations or if you want to stick to your guns and say, no, we think it should be the way that we presented it.
So after you meet with LNA, you finalize your report, right?
So could we start a meeting at 6:30, go adjourn it at 7:30, meet with LNA and come back in at 9 to or whatever, you know, hopefully it doesn't.
Can I ask a procedural question? Can the LNA committee go outside the scope of what was the town council sent back to us?
Good question.
Well, ultimately, the town council can go outside the scope in the sense that you know, they could reject your whole report. They can decide, town council ultimately decides what, if anything, is going to go on the ballot. So from that point of view.
But could they bring something to us that they haven't already told us?
Right. Can they bring up a new thing and then that would force us to potentially have to have another full meeting after next week? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Commission is to confer with the appointing authority concerning any recommendations and may amend any provision of the proposed charter in accordance with such recommendations, or the commission may reject such recommendations. So that's the best guidance I can give you. That's what the statutes say. In
Okay.
either case, the commission shall make its final report to the appointing authority not later than 30 days after receiving the recommendations. So, and those are the original recommendations. So
The ones we got last week.
Commission can confer with the authority concerning any recommendations, may amend any provisions of the proposed charter. Well, let's go back again. If the appointing authority makes recommendations for changes of the draft report, the commission shall confer with the appointing authority concerning the recommendations and may amend any provision of the proposed charter or charter amendments in accordance with such recommendations, or the commission may reject the recommendations. So you're going back only to discuss the recommendations that were
Right.
made. Yes.
No. Okay. That's what I thought. I just wanted to
I
hear you
did
say
too.
it.
I read this. You know,
Good
there's
question.
too many double and triple negatives in these statutes.
Well, generally you go big to small, right? You kind of keep it, you don't add new stuff because then they would have to go back and vote on motion and vote on those recommendations if they
Right.
wanted to add additional ones.
Right.
Just double checking. Thank you.
All right. In either case, the commission makes its final report to the appointing authority not later than 30 days after receiving the recommendations. So the receipt of the recommendations was
Last
a week ago. Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand, like, administratively, what we can do,
So
how
you
we
can-
can
what
guess.
you
get
can
to
do
the
is
end.
if you meet, because the one pending issue is ethics. So if you meet at 6:30 next week and say spend 45 minutes on ethics, you can, or then you can call if you're meeting at 6:30, then they can call the LNA committee for 7:15. If you run over, the LNA committee can wait. If you call it for 7:30 and you're done at 7:02, then they have to wait till 7:30 to have their meeting.
Okay,
So
then can we reconvene,
Yes.
reconvene separately after
yes,
that same night?
yes.
Is that another meeting or is that a continuation of the early meeting?
You can do it as part of the same meeting.
We could just adjourn, right? And we haven't
Adjourn.
actually ended our meeting,
Go into recess,
Recess,
Yeah.
that's the word, yeah, recess.
right?
because it only says that you're to make the final report within 30 days. So it doesn't say that it has to be at a separate meeting.
So
Right, so
what,
technically, I'm sorry, go ahead,
no,
Kate.
go ahead, no, go ahead, Dan.
I was saying technically, if we met after the LNA meeting, it's really just a continuation of the earlier meeting.
Or you can,
So-
you can adjourn your meeting, your 6:30 meeting, adjourn it till such time as the LNA meeting is adjourned, or something like, either way. You can either take a recess and come back, or you can adjourn to a time certain.
Right, that just covers us on notice and things like that,
Mhm.
so.
Right.
Okay, so we get together next Wednesday for an hour to work through the rest of our issues. We meet with LNA. Hopefully, they're happy with what we've done.
Your agenda would issue, one item, the second item on the agenda would be adoption of the final report.
That's what I'm worried about, not being ready at 10 o'clock on Wednesday night.
If you don't get to it, then you don't do it.
Then we have to have another meeting, or could we do a vote?
You can adjourn to a time certain.
Could we do it by email?
No,
Adopt the final? No. We'd have to at least have a 15-minute meeting at some point to
yes,
adopt our report.
yes.
That means we have to have 2 more meetings.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you don't have to go through,
Call from Morris Jennings.
have to wait till my phone stops ringing here. I don't know how to
Call
do it,
from
do anything.
Morris
Uh,
Jennings.
If I put it through on the pillow, maybe so you can take your meeting next week if you decide that you don't want to finish it next Wednesday night. And you want to come back,
I just don't know how, I don't know that I'm going to want to sign off on a report that I haven't seen the final draft, the final copy, right? That I
So-
haven't looked at every word of it.
so maybe you want to meet again on Thursday then.
Okay.
Come back the next day.
But do we have to notice both those meetings?
Yeah, but you'll notice it now. You can notice
Right.
it. First of all, you can notice it and then
Then cancel it if we don't need it, or?
I would
Dan,
put
can
the-
they adjourn on Wednesday night to a date certain, which
Yes.
is Thursday, and
Yes.
not notice it?
Yes.
Right,
Do we want to maybe notice it anyway?
You can, look, you can do it. You can put the draft, you can put the draft, the finalization, the adoption of the final report on the Wednesday agenda, and you can put it again on a Thursday agenda. So you'll have flexibility. If the Thursday meeting never takes place, you don't have to hold the Thursday meeting. You have the ability right now to warn both meetings because you have the time. Generally, but from a purely procedural point of view, it's not necessary to, you can just, if you have on your Wednesday agenda, adoption of the final report, and you don't finish up on Wednesday, you can adjourn that meeting to a date certain, and it could be Thursday, it could be the following Monday. It could be any day you like.
Well, what's
I
the
guess-
latest? What's the latest? Because
Well,
again, I'm sort of thinking if what
Well-
we really want to do is read this whole thing again.
Want to get it on the August agenda, okay? Then
Mhm.
what's your cutoff date, Cindy, for the August agenda? This is where we're talking about needing 5 business days for publication.
Right, so what if we had our final adoption meeting on the 27th, Monday night? Just the final report, we've all read it, we get all. the work done.
That's too late for the count, it's,
Too late for LNA.
well, LNA would be meeting that night, but I don't know whether LNA would need to, well, LNA probably is going to want to deal with it again, just to make their final recommendations to the full council. Yes.
Are we gonna get a new version based on what we decided tonight?
Yeah, we got to do all that. So that's what
All right.
I'm trying to
Well, I
make.
know, but if we have that so that we can have time to review that before next Wednesday.
We just won't have all,
I mean, in terms of a red line version, I assume, Cindy, that's not going to take very long because you're just going to take out the changes You delete the changes that they deleted tonight and add those few, there were really just a few other things, so that for,
We need to update the red line. We need to update our draft report. And I think we just leave the summary. I don't think we need to deal with that anymore. I just want to make sure we have time to do all that. So it
Right,
does
right.
look like we're going to have to do it Thursday or Friday, and I don't really want to do it Friday, but that means we have to get off the phone Wednesday night, next Wednesday.
how about having your meeting Tuesday and then
Yeah, what if we meet before Wednesday
Monday or Tuesday next week?
and, you know, do the ethics commission stuff and any changes to explanations?
And then meet with LNA on Wednesday or do everything on Tuesday?
No, Wednesday.
No, meet with LNA separately.
And you can meet with LNA on Wednesday. If you meet Monday, then you can have everything, you can digest it and meet with
Yeah.
LNA on Wednesday.
All right, so Cindy, we can get that done for us to meet on Monday, right?
I don't know if everybody's available.
Monday or Tuesday? I thought
Yeah.
somebody said Tuesday.
Well, if we could do Monday, then we meet with LNA on Wednesday.
Maybe LNA can meet on Thursday if you, we kind of just came
Well,
up.
if we meet on Monday, we have more options to give LNA in terms of when they're available.
They have to warn their meeting.
Is that
Right, but I
enough
think
to
that,
warn a meeting?
I think we're still going to need to have another meeting after that LNA meeting, right? That's what we're talking about here. So,
But if we can have a meeting before LNA to get everything we've already talked about in place and cleaned up and ready, then we're much closer to being able to approve a final version.
Right.
Right?
Right. How much notice do we have to give for a meeting, Cindy?
48 hours.
48 hours.
That's right.
We thought you knew that.
48 hours.
Okay, so we're getting close to Tom's departure and he hasn't packed yet. And I haven't seen Vicky try to pull him
It'll
out.
be a
of
long time before I'm leaving. Fine, don't worry about it.
The kids
So
going with you?
Yeah, they don't need me around. They have their own cars.
What was
Okay.
that?
So are we going to meet on Monday night? Is that what we're saying? To try to finish our changes up, to see everything we did tonight. We can try to get those, any additional explanations in. So we're looking at, as far as we're concerned, other than ethics, which will be the one thing we'll have to finish. That makes sense?
So Monday you'll do ethics and
Just look at the
other explanations and just
look at the
look at all
report.
the documents.
And then I think we got to reach out to Jason and ask, you know, what night he could pull LNA together next week for us to give him.
I think Wednesday is good.
And then if we have our meeting on Monday and we adjourn to a date certain Wednesday night after LNA, then we could be at the point of either we only have, I'm hoping they're going to accept our changes and it's just a matter of saying we're adopting if we've done all the work already. We have to do the ethics commission changes. I don't know how we're getting away with that.
Or not.
On
No, we would have done
Monday,
the,
right?
no, we would have done the ethics
We were
commission.
going to do that on Monday.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Oh my God, I have such COVID.
And remember, there was never a mandate to make any specific changes as to the ethics. It was just to take a look at it again. That was the
Right.
recommendation from council.
Okay, so then that timeline would work. We meet Monday, we meet with LNA Wednesday and reconvene ourselves after that, hopefully to approve a final report
Yes.
to town council. Everybody good with that?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, so
What time on Monday?
We do 6:30 again?
I'm good with that.
Hey,
Fine.
That's
Okay.
fine.
6:30. Okay, so then LNA, we're gonna do Wednesday. And what time do they normally meet, Cindy? 7?
7 or 7.
Yes. 7.
Meet at 7, but Yes.
Yeah, tell them whatever they want. Okay. And is this, will this still be, will we be noticing us another special meeting, Cindy, so I can do that agenda? Okay.
Yes, both will be, well, you're technically 3 meetings, right, Dan? Monday, Wednesday, and Wednesday?
Or could we adjourn Monday to a date certain, Wednesday?
You could, as long as you have the final adoption on your agenda for Monday.
What do you
I
guys?
think it's not really, just putting out a separate agenda is not
A big deal.
a big deal. You have the opportunity right now to do it.
Okay. It's just the adoption of the final report, right? Okay. Is there anything else timeline-wise that we're not thinking about, or anything else that you guys?
So are you thinking, when will we have new reports to review for Monday's meeting? Today's,
So I can, I'm the only one in the office tomorrow, so it depends on how busy it gets. But I can try to get it done by the end of Friday.
okay.
Can I help you with any of it?
I can let you know.
Let me know. I'd prefer you do the red line because I think it gets messy when more than one
Yep.
person's in there, but the draft report, I can definitely pick up some of that.
Okay. I don't think there's really all that much.
Okay, so we're going to say we're going to get red line and the updated version of the draft report end of day Friday. Awesome.
How do you get it to Tom on the beach, though?
Send the email.
My
I'll be
computer.
working my whole time down there. There's not gonna be much of a vacation.
Okay, so that's Friday, the 17th. Okay. All right. Anything else that we haven't thought of? We did good tonight. This was good. Okay. Anything else? Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Thanks, JC.
Night all. Tom, safe drive.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.